On News Desk. This is Africa TV and many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. Now, catfish mongers at the seasides in Banjul have called on authorities to help with some basic amenities to address the hygiene disasters at the coastal areas. The operational situation, in their view, is ever getting worse with no sign of serious intervention from anywhere. Binta Fati has more details of that in this report.
Even though some progress has been registered by the government of the Gambia, more people continue to suffer from lack of basic amenities such as electricity and water supply, amongst other basic amenities in the country. And fishmongers are no exception to these common challenges. At the capital city, dozens of fishmongers, most of whom are women, work from dawn to dusk to make ends meet in an unprotected and unhygienic environment. This, according to the mongers, is alarming and needs proper resolutions from the government.
Sometimes you come to work just to realize that your fridge has been broken into. You won't even know where the thieves come from, but your fridge will be broken into. This is also our problem because you will have to look for money to pay for it.
Ajimaritu Sonko, the leader of the fishmongers at the Banjul seaside, said they have repeatedly voiced out their problems but have never received any form of help from the government or relevant stakeholders.
We
are Gambians with our voters card and everything. Whatever happens in this country, we always participate with no one behind. So we want the government to help us. All we have is the government, and that is where all our hopes lie.
Omar Cisse, a Senegalese national working for the women at the seaside, reiterated their sufferings.
Sometimes, if the women have no work, we also don't have work to do. Also, if they are ready with their work, they don't have water or a toilet to bath themselves. If you want water, you will have to go to the market.
Despite forming two-thirds of the country's workforce and 51% of the population, women across the country continue to battle heavily with challenges that hinder their development. These deplorable problems, according to the fishmongers, could be solved if more care is accorded to them. Reporting for iAfrica TV News, I am Binta Fati.
Fishmongers in Banjul, they are calling for more support from the authorities as they continue to face more challenges in their works. Next to Nigeria now, where non-governmental organizations in the country have raised concern over United Kingdom's plans to cut its support to the West African country. The move, according to the NGOs, could trigger more harm for vulnerable communities, of course, who have been benefiting from the UK's assistance. UK has more than 50 active aid projects in Nigeria, which has been helping to change people's lives in different sectors. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Nigeria's foreign reserves stood at $36.19 billion at the beginning of February, then fell to $35.09 billion by the end of the month, a record $1.1 billion, according to data from the central bank, its lowest level in over 2 months. Experts blame the plunge on Nigeria's high drive for imports.
This is not unexpected. The new drop is not unexpected. It's been oscillating over the years, Sometimes it will go up, sometimes it will come down. But it's essentially a function of our trade activity.
Because our industrial base, our consumption pattern, and everything that has to do with economic activities in Nigeria seem to be almost exclusively driven by our foreign exchange earnings. We have to import so many things. What it then means is that each time you have a hit on your foreign exchange reserves, we begin to look at ways to to reduce our consumption, when, as a matter of fact, what we ought to do is to take a long-term perspective to try and reduce our reliance on those consumption patterns. So it will always be significant, and it will always impact almost every aspect of our economic activities.
The central bank says the plunge in its foreign reserve is nothing to worry about, as what's left is enough to serve the nation for the next 7 months. Nigeria is Africa's biggest crude oil producer. About 90% of its export earnings come from crude oil. But the nation still imports refined petroleum products, as local refineries are worn and dated. Experts advise government to adopt a more proactive approach to boost the foreign reserve.
It is an invitation for us to be cautious really, about what we are going to be purchasing in terms of our overall, trade policy. What are the things that government should prioritize? How much effort should we put into looking inwards? What is our policy towards patronizing local content? If we continue to focus on foreign items, we know it's going to put more pressure on the naira, and when there's pressure on the naira, it will lose its value.
If you can lose $1 billion over such a short period, and against the current scenario, by current scenario, I'm talking of the various factors in the economy, in the society, including the all-important security issues. You can lose billions just like that. And therefore, yes, 7 months seems to be double what the international criteria is. But it might not just be enough. And so, on that basis, I think there's cause for worry.
The central bank assures that it will continue efforts to boost and conserve the foreign reserve. Some measures include the reward policy that encourages formal diaspora remittances, targeting intervention schemes to support local production and growth of non-oil exports.
From the report there in Nigeria, we come back home and report on the ongoing public hearings of the TRLC, because former Gambian Foreign Minister Lamin Kababajo was the latest top officials to testify on the killing of the West African migrants in the Gambia. He admitted before the commission to send in a cover-up letter to the Ghanaian government with intent to protect his office from responsibility of the heinous crimes. Amindao has more of that in this report.
Since the hearings on the West African migrants commenced on the 24th February, more witnesses continue to testify on the 2005 massacre. Testifying on the execution of the migrants, the then Foreign Minister Lamin Kababajo told the commission that he felt very embarrassed and deceived for sending a false letter to his Ghanaian counterpart.
You agree completely that the story you gave was completely false. Yes. How do you feel knowing that the letter you sent to your counterpart, who is today the president of Ghana, is completely false? It's a cock and bull story.
Yo bota nyadi le ile taro men safe ka ki do nyoyen men yalon ko saintem atelem president de Ghana banko kan kuma kandel me yalon ko amanke to nyadi kuma kulle me yalon ko ron miral famire fan sumira ko wol ron wala be fuduru mo le taro nyin kon.
I feel very bad, very embarrassed. And I felt deceived.
Kababajo further revealed that the information on the letter emanated from the Ministry of Interior. According to him, if he is to face his ex-counterpart, Ghana's current president, he will apologize deeply and express his disappointment for being misled.
How would you correct this rhetorical question that you have raised in your letter? What would you say to him? Only to deeply apologize to him. Follow. Mbabulo Saila Baba Bake. And would you tell him that
nothing more than an apology?
Would you tell him that the Ghanaians were killed in the Gambia?
Indeed, of course, I would.
Would you tell him that former President Yahya Jammeh caused their execution?
Indeed, very well, I would.
Would you tell him that the government carried out a massive cover-up of their heinous crime?
Yes, I will tell him that I'll now go further to express my own disappointment about the whole thing being misled on the side of ethnicity.
Concluding his testimony, Mr. Bajo extended apologies to all the victims and their families, both in and outside of the country. The government of the Gambia tried to cover up by saying that the executed migrants were mercenaries. However, so many witnesses, including the killer machine of former President Jammeh, described the accused mercenaries as migrants, as they were not carrying anything terrifying such as weapons. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Amindao.
More witnesses, including top government officials, continue to appear before the TRC to testify on the alleged killing of the West African migrants in the Gambia back in 2005. And with that report there by Amindao, we will now take a break and come back right after with more stories coming ahead.
Star GSM. Star GSM. Fele promotion bana fina molye minulbe mararing tanko bundala Gambia banko kanjang minubuko policeol armed forceol immigration customs anil lanjurtol datalar bala keta smartphone minka sannu wini woro wala sang wini woro doma isa soto minka sannu wini woro sang wini lu minka sannu wini lu sang wini nani manda smartphone doma simple phone fanan minul ka sannu kemelula sang kemenani talulu milbe kemenani talulu sang keme sabatalulu ning original techno simple phone minu ka sannu keme konontola sang keme worwula isa soto mobile ambulance odum keme woro domma Star GSM e tableto soto le pro dinningol wuli killing keme sey domma isa soto nin tableto minu ka sim card uta wili fula keme saba isa soto HD universal remote fanam bijele flat screen ol mini yalon ko la receiver be konole 42 lombang wala 43 inches isi soto no $4,999 wala $8,999. Star GSM manda wodo mala nganying original face mask sol sotole minsal tanka coronavirus sotola nga air freshenal fanan sotole pour alla sabati dinkiral aning official nyim bala muran tulol fanan bijele nyim flash kopol ka bonali America alse muna fangala la official do wara alla sabati dinkiral pour jikando wala jisuma anda se sambano tilo mume nganying designer spray fanan sotale min zero ka tarafengo bala fo montoro wati monni nani andi botanam France le anin Dubai isina njibe no na bumbato memfele kombosila drive Serekunda OJ Johnson nyati lingol wala nanyun kunkilim bitikol memfele talindi marseto anin tabo koto traffic light auto isen kumandino 700-2494 wala 990-1122 Star GSM mfanankan kato dango kele puru mimbe banko sambala nyato Star GSM.
Welcome back. This is Africa TV, and once again, thanks for joining us. Now, 10 years after a devastating earthquake and tsunami struck Japan, residents are up to pay tribute to the disaster's victims. Now, the Fukushima historic incident is remembered in different regions in the country. As of Thursday, people were seen depositing flower and visiting the tsunami memorial site, where a remembrance ceremony was held. They observed a moment of silence to mark the 10th anniversary of the earthquake that killed more than 18,000 people and triggered a nuclear meltdown in Fukushima. The devastating natural disaster is reported to have occurred at 2:46 p.m. local time after the earthquake rocked on 11th March 2011. And finally, to South Africa now, because the Rainbow Nation has recorded more violence against women cases after the government declared a national state of emergency to deal with the coronavirus, leaving South African women with option to use guns as men for defense. Now, many women have become gun owners in South Africa since its inception in 2015, after they were trained on how to responsibly use the guns to protect themselves. Here are more details of that in this report.
Gender-based violence continues to increase here in South Africa. In fact, it dramatically increased after government declared the national state of disaster in order to deal with the spread of the coronavirus. And now some women are turning to guns to protect themselves. Many have joined Girls on Fire. It's an initiative that was started by Lynette Oxley in Johannesburg.
So we teach people to be responsibly armed, to look after themselves, to train on a regular basis and make sure that they go through the right processes to attain firearms, and on a regular basis train with that firearm so that they do not go into a situation where they can't use the firearms effectively.
Since its inception in 2015, Girls on Fire has seen thousands of women learn how to responsibly use handguns. Other areas of focus include gun law, situational awareness, and concealment.
I think more women is actually coming through as gun owners. I think there's a lot of women actually working in the gun area. And if you look at the worldwide trend in gun ownership, the largest growing market is in firearms are actually women. And I think the trend is starting to happen in South Africa as well. We also then, another thing that we go through is concealed carry, where women can actually effectively conceal their firearms and carry on them. So we look at in terms of the Firearms Control Act, the firearm has to be under your effective control, it's got to be on your body. So we look at different options for ladies to conceal the firearm.
Many women who join Girls on Fire to receive training on gun use say it's empowering.
Well, for me, my thought is I'm well trained. I know where to store my firearm. I know how to use it and when to use it. And that is what the training entails. For me, kids and firearms, I'm very careful around that. Safety is very important, because if you are not using the firearm in a safe environment or don't know the safety around the firearm, a lot of people could get hurt. And you need to know the safety around using a firearm.
About 3 million South Africans have licensed guns.
Women violence increasing in South Africa, leaving women to turn to guns to protect themselves against violence, of course, in the country. And with that report there from South Africa, of course, we finally bring this news bulletin to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, you can log on our website on iafrica.tv. But for now, though, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.
Gambia may be the smallest country in Africa, but it will host the second